And are you refreshed? Good. Now what?
Hello, Abraham. I just first want to say thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, we're all in this together, aren't we? Yeah.
I love the feeling of taking inspired action. I love that feeling of ease when the inspiration hits me and I take that action.
There's a certainty in it, isn't there?
Yeah.
Inspired action is receiving mode action, and there's a certainty about it that is delicious. Yeah.
Absolutely. I also know the feeling of not feeling inspired to take action.
Yeah. Or, even worse, taking action without inspiration. Yeah. Which is where a lot of people are. They push through, but they just compound the resistance in doing so.
Yes, and that's my question, because I've experienced, there's a concept called behavioral activation, and I've experienced taking action when I am not inspired, and I've experienced momentum and positive momentum as a result.
It can prime the pump. It can. And that's why people get addicted to it, because when you make yourself do something that you don't feel like doing, sometimes even in the doing of it, you distract yourself from whatever was going on, and then the resistance becomes a little less just in the doing of it. But there is a bigger downside to that than there is upside, in that you may become habitual at vacuuming the floor without plugging it in, and then just sort of kidding yourself that you're being productive.
I guess my question is it possible to be inspired to take an uninspired action?
Well, it's not unusual to feel an impulse to walk right into a problem, because sometimes the problem is the catalyst for the bounce in the desire for future benefit. But in answer to your question, we would say no. Want to give us more about it?
So I also work with people, and I try to, and oftentimes they're in a place where through depression, they have really no inspiration to take any action. And so through behavioral activation or these types of things to try to get some momentum going.
We understand that. When something is manifested and it's big and it's real and it's got momentum, it requires something to change the direction of that. But we think there's an easier way. Can you give us an example of someone that was a process that seemed effective, and just give us enough of the scenario that we could tell you what we would do with the basis of what we've been offering here today?
Yes. So somebody that just does not want to leave their apartment. They want to stay in. They would prefer to stay in and maybe sleep or watch Netflix. And so by them taking action and going out and actually meeting up with friends, even though they did not want to do that, they ultimately feel better as a result of doing that.
Well, that is good advice, getting out there where there's more stimulation. So here's what we would say. So you be that person and you explain to us how you feel. I haven't left my apartment in a while. You be that person.
Yeah. I'm sad. I don't feel like doing anything right now. I feel like if I go to meet up with my friends that I'm going to have to put on a show.
Yeah, you probably will.
I feel like it's just easier to just stay here.
It undoubtedly is.
Yeah. I don't want to do anything. I just want to stay here. And I'll probably be safer.
For sure. Do you feel that in staying in, that you'd be happier than if you went out? You feel happier about staying in than going out?
I might be initially.
Does staying in really feel all that good? Is it stimulating and exciting, or is it boring?
No, it's safe.
We're standing in your shoes. What I've noticed is that if I'm feeling really, really, really bad, that then it feels a little better to just sort of dig in, but only a little bit better. And I've learned through experience that while if I'm depressed, anger feels way better than depression, but anger isn't really where I want to settle in either. So I look at it as sort of steps to feeling better. And so it's a good idea. If going out seems like an awful idea and staying in feels like a better idea, then that's good judgment to stay in. That's not unwise. But no one can stay in all the time. There's so much out there that is waiting to be explored and experienced. And so if you feel like staying in, stay in. But if you feel like going out, go out and watch for the difference. Because I know myself, I can talk myself into staying in, but it doesn't get better. Or I can acknowledge that maybe I'd like to go out and I can go right back in if I don't like it. And sometimes when I get out there, I just feel better. And here's why. Then when they're ready to really hear the here's why, we'd explain to them that you've lived so much life and there's so much calling you. Some of it's in here, but a lot of it's out there. Mostly what calls us is interaction with others. Mostly what calls us is opportunity to make new choices. So you're making a really good point here, because the question that you've activated, and we really like chewing on it with you, because we know that it's obvious to us at any rate that when you find alignment, when you get into the receiving mode, that you will receive inspiration to do something. And if you don't have the inspiration to do it, then it's very difficult to make yourself do it. So, but over time, society can teach you that you just need to dig in, and that if you do the uncomfortable thing long enough, it will become comfortable. There's a whole lot of momentum about that, and that it's lazy to stay in, and it's not lazy to go out, and that it's productive to go out, and it's not productive to stay in. There are all kinds of things that people have been saying to each other. And so what you're wanting to do for yourself or for someone else is to initiate, to get them hooked into that appreciative vibration that their inner being is. Their inner being is not unhappy that they are staying in. Your inner being can give you wonderful ideas and feedback, whether you're in or whether you're out. There's nothing wrong about being in and nothing right about being out, but it's the mood that you're describing that you're wanting to help them to improve. And perpetuating an action, while it can improve a mood, it's not necessarily long lasting because they don't understand the here's why of it. So once you get into the receptive mode and you receive an impulse to act, then it is more self-perpetuating. The next and the next and the next and the next comes. So the question is, if I do such and such, will it make me feel better? And if it does, then should that be the way I approach life? And we say, it's better if you feel better and then act than if you act to feel better. But once you get this thing going, you almost can't tell which is which. Sometimes people think that what we're teaching is inaction, no action. That's not true at all. We just don't want you to become dependent upon action to do what energy was meant to do. And people who do depend on action to do what energy was meant to do work too hard. They get exhausted. They deplete themselves, because this receiving mode that we're talking about is also the replenishing mode. It's where the energy just keeps coming as you keep flowing it, you see. So while we don't think that that's bad advice, especially in extreme cases where people are just sort of all wadded up and not wanting to go out, we know for sure that they would feel better, but we sure would tell them the rest of the story. We would say to them that through all that you've lived, there's a part of you that is calling you. And if you don't think a person can hear that, if you don't think that your student or the person that you are interacting with is ready to hear that they are more than their physical body and that there's a larger part to them, then you can't talk to them about their guidance system. You can't help them know what emotions are even about. But once you get that across to them, once they are able to understand that emotions are big and that they matter a lot and that they are indicators of magnificent things, then they're not just going to go out because you told them to and have a bad experience that confirms why they stayed in to begin with. You say, helpful?
Very.
Something more?
Yeah.
Really good.